The rapture is upon us. Whether you are ready or not.
Yo.
Today, what people will hear is God revealing his plan
To his people.
to the people of the world.
Yeah.
God took me to see the future and then he brought me back.
Breaking news here. Tomorrow, the great Hoover in the sky is scheduled to turn on and suck the deserving right out of their crocs and into the clouds. Yep. The Rapture, folks. Mark your calendars. Cancel your brunches. Why tomorrow? Well, a pastor in South Africa says that Jesus told him about it in a dream.
There in heaven, in a throne room, I see Jesus sitting on his throne, and I could hear him very loud and clear. I am coming soon.
Well, the rapture's coming. Yeah, they say the 23rd and 24th. Yeah, some are saying both dates, some are saying one date. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a 2-day rapture. I'm not sure how that works.
And it just so happens to land on the Feast of Trumpets and Rosh Hashanah. So, of course, it's a divine Google Calendar alert, right? Toss in a spooky new moon, a little numerology, and boom, apocalypse casserole, folks.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and if you are watching this right now, you must be one of the millions of unlucky souls who missed the rapture. Heaven's great Hoover vacuum cleaner was supposed to flip on, snatch the chosen ones right out of their shoes, and whisk them into the clouds in the sweet by and by. Yet here we are, still here, left behind. And what chaos we've been left to endure. No traffic jams clogging the streets, no Karens screaming at grocery clerks, no vaccine deniers chugging horse dewormer like it's a wellness shot, no MAGA alpha males warning us about the alien invasion they've scheduled for November. Quite simply, a hell of a lot less bullshit on social media.
Who schedules the rapture on a Tuesday? That's like a beginning of the week, end of the week activity. That's not a midweek activity. I had kickboxing on Tuesday. Do I still have to go to work if everybody gets raptured? What time is it happening? Is it going to be like early morning, afternoon, evening? It feels like it would be like an 11:30 kind of event. I don't know why. But if my whole department gets raptured, what do I do? Guess I'll still submit communication requests. I don't. On a Tuesday.
Now, I don't want to let the secret out, but if that really happened, folks, we might have just stumbled into the golden age. A world without performative outrage at school board meetings, a world without self-appointed patriots waving Bibles and carrying signs and making a bunch of noise. Doesn't sound like hell to me. Sounds like paradise. So the question is, did the apocalypse really begin, or did we just miss the best house cleaning humanity has ever seen before? If you've been scrolling TikTok lately, or as they call it now, Rapture Talk, you've seen the madness firsthand.
Every year or so, they start talk of a rapture and all those that are so wonderful and holier than thou, you know, that they get lifted up and heathens like me get left behind. But yeah, they say that it's this week. Yeah, and they've got instructions online. Yeah, how to be lifted up safely, you know, and to lift your arms up and relax your legs. Yeah, I don't know how they know this, but that's what the instructions say.
But it doesn't stop there. The questions keep getting funnier. Do you still get to redeem your frequent flyer miles if you get raptured, or do they vanish with your luggage? Do platinum million milers get priority boarding into heaven, or is it just one big divine cattle call? And hey, what about your pets? You going to leave Fluffy and Fido here to fend for themselves, or is St. Peter running a kennel by the pearly gates? And maybe, just maybe, it's not even one day. Maybe it's a 2-day rapture. Saturday for the holiest, Sunday for the backups. Or maybe it's just another excuse to max out the credit cards and skip out on the rent. Because let's be honest, half of these folks preparing for the end times are going to wake up Wednesday morning with a hangover and no groceries, wondering why the sky didn't open up. This is the level of absurdity that's got Rapture Talk running wild, and it's the perfect snapshot of how something supposedly holy gets turned into a cosmic comedy routine. But here's where we get serious for a moment, because while it's easy to laugh at, there are real people building their lives around this, and for that, I want to lean on someone who actually knows what he's talking about. Reverend Dr. Mark Sandlin, pastor out of North Carolina and co-founder of the Christian Left, he's not some TikTok comic doing a parody. He's a theologian who has been cutting through this nonsense for years.
The rapture is horrible, awful, terrible, unbiblical theology. It was more or less created by this guy named John Nelson Darby in the 19th century, and it was popularized in the United States by the Scofield Reference Bible. So if you have one of those, you can go ahead and toss that right on out. For most of Christian history, no one had even heard of the rapture because the idea hadn't been invented yet. So many Christians misunderstand the book of Revelation. It's not about predicting some future apocalypse. That's why no one's been able to accurately do that. It was written by this guy named John who was exiled on the island of Patmos, and he looked around and he felt like the world was literally falling apart in front of him. The Romans were persecuting fellow Jesus followers, and that's what he was writing about.
Here's the thing. The Bible literally says no one knows the day or the hour. Not the angels, not even Jesus. Yet somehow, Pastor Dreamcatcher nailed it.
Sandlin reminds us that the Bible itself says no one knows the day or the hour, not the angels, not even Jesus. Yet somehow televangelists and self-proclaimed prophets keep pumping out rapture dates like they're running a doomsday lottery. And here's the kicker. The rapture isn't even in the Bible. The entire idea was dreamed up in the 1800s by John Nelson Darby, then repackaged for American audiences through the Scofield Reference Bible. That's right. The theology of being hoovered up into heaven is younger than Coca-Cola. And at least Coke had real ingredients. The early church never taught it. The reformers never taught it. No pope, no council, no saint, nobody. Which means what millions of evangelicals cling to isn't historic Christianity at all. It's a 19th century sales pitch dressed up as gospel. And when politicians like Ted Cruz or today's MAGA preachers lean on this bad theology to justify their politics, what they're really doing is building a future on a scam. And here's the thing. This isn't new. We've been hearing about the end of the world our whole lives. If you grew up anywhere near a pulpit, you've probably heard it too. The names and dates change, but the grift stays the same. Billy Graham filled stadiums with fire and brimstone warnings. Televangelists in the 80s and 90s went on TV selling survival kits and prayer cloths that were supposed to be your ticket out of the apocalypse. And now MAGA preachers do the same thing, only with more flags and a bigger merch table. Different generation, same scam. Remember Harold Camping? He swore the rapture was coming in 2011 twice. Big swing, big miss. The Mayan calendar, we all lived through 2012 just fine, unless you really hated the movie. And Y2K, the only thing that went up on flames was a stockpile of canned beans folks were hoarding in their basements. The pattern is always the same. Somebody sets a date, sells you fear in a bottle, and when nothing happens, they discover new math in the scriptures and push the date out again. It's not prophecy, it's programming. Fear on repeat, sold like a bad infomercial. The truth is, this whole rapture business has been less about salvation and more about sales. Every missed apocalypse just becomes a rescheduled tour date. But the reality is this fever-pitch distraction is not going to happen. And when tomorrow comes and the rapture doesn't take place, they'll just push the date out again and carry on like nothing happened because they refuse to admit that they're wrong, refuse to admit that they're full of shit, refuse to admit they're listening to the wrong people. That's the bigger problem we've got in this country. Folks clinging to fantasy while the real work gets absolutely ignored. And if you're sitting in a pew thinking Donald Trump is the chosen one bringing you closer to God's golden age, you're dead wrong. Let me tell you something. I don't give two shits about your four walls and those pews that you call the church. That's not the church. You are the church. The things you say, the actions you take, that's the church. I cut ties with the institution because it cared more about keeping the collection plate full than living out what Jesus actually taught, helping people. And when I hear so-called Christians trashing immigrants or cheering cruelty, I know damn well that that's not the church. One day, maybe you'll face the gate, and someone's going to quiz you. How did you treat the least of us? How did you treat the addicted, the prisoner, the poor, the hungry? How did you treat the immigrant? And what's your answer going to be? That you went to church every Sunday but were cruel to the waitress at Cracker Barrel immediately following church? That you cheered for throwing immigrants to the alligators in the Rio Grande? Think about that. Because the way you treat the least of your brothers is the way that you treat Jesus Christ. If you drop a bomb on a child, you're bombing Jesus. If you cut school lunches, you're starving Jesus. And don't tell me that you're following Christ while worshiping at the altar of Trump. That man literally told his people to weaponize power against his enemies. That's not Jesus. That's not faith. That's a scam. The same kind of scam we're seeing right now with all of this rapture propaganda. Recycled fear-mongering that's been fooling people since the 1800s. Different year, same con. They slap a new date on the apocalypse, sell you another book or DVD, rake in the donations, and leave the faithful broke, bitter, and waiting for a bus that's never coming. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.